Most retirement plans don't fail because of a market crash. They're kind of late. They fail quietly, in fact, almost politely. The math looks fine. The charts you get, they still balance, and you get your account statements every single month. But here, something just feels off. That's because almost every single retirement number that you've gotten in a plan, most all of them end earlier than you would expect. Not 95, not 100. So in this video, we're not talking about extreme longevity. We're just talking about what happens past the age of 85, because you discover that the number you trusted in your financial plan, it may have not ever been designed to carry you to and past 85. When most people drop their financial plan, they're trying to aim for a life, but really, your financial plan has to address a range. If you've ever used a retirement calculator online, take a look closely at the thing it never emphasizes. The underpinnings, right, the assumptions of the plan. A lot of the plans assume 80, maybe 82 at the end of the plan. Sometimes, occasionally, you'll see a plan that runs up to age 85. And a lot of them run up to that age 85, not because that's when life typically ends. That's when the math all of a sudden gets really uncomfortable really fast. You see, most financial plans, they don't break at the beginning, of course. They break as you push the envelope around the edges. When you live past the age that your model quietly preferred, all of a sudden all the assumptions that were made in the plan, they really have to stretch. Withdrawals, they last longer. Healthcare doesn't taper off like the model projects. Maintenance doesn't decline. And you know what, your life, it just doesn't automatically simplify. You see, the plan itself, it didn't fail. It just stopped expecting you to move on. People talk about living to age 95 like it's rare. Start talking about living to age 100 and all of a sudden it sounds heroic. But talk about age 85, it seems reasonable. And that assumption of reasonableness, that's dangerous. It's dangerous because by the time you hit age 85, you're not planning a comeback. You're not going to restructure any of your finances, and you're kind of done making adjustments. You're living inside the plan that you already chose. The problem isn't that people don't plan to live that long. It's because they're planning that their last decade of life will cost less. And it doesn't. That last decade can often cost more, logistically, financially, and emotionally. You see, the assumptions and the math that was in your plan, they didn't just collapse. They just couldn't stretch out into the actual age you live. You see, none of us, nobody blows up your retirement budget on purpose. But what happens is they just kind of drift. They drift away from your model due to current life's demands. Take your withdrawals, for example. Withdrawals are never static, like you might see in a model. They have to adjust to what? Inflation, healthcare, convenience, quite frankly, your energy level. Again, the problem isn't that you weren't conservative enough. The problem isn't because of overspending. The problem is the duration of the spend. So what feels conservative at 65? At 75, that starts to feel kind of tight. By the time you hit 85, it all of a sudden feels really fragile. It isn't because the withdrawal rate spiked. It's just because those withdrawals persist. And you know what? Persistence gets expensive. Plans assume that naturally, you'll start to slow down. You'll spend less. You'll need less. And sometimes that's true. But often, spending doesn't drop. It just changes. And those changes are harder to model than a straight reduction. Let's take healthcare, for example. Healthcare isn't a spike. Healthcare is a slope. Most people budget for healthcare like it's a few big spikes, a few big events, and then stability in between and afterwards. But healthcare in your later years, it isn't about emergencies. It's more about maintenance. In your later years, it's things like appointments, medication, assistance, convenience. None of those expenses are catastrophic. It's just that they're constant. And constant expenses, they don't feel dangerous, unless, of course, they stretch much farther than you anticipated in your plan. You see, in most financial plans, it's not because they ignored healthcare. They just underestimated how long a healthcare expense would be relevant. Retirement doesn't always get simpler. It's just that your choices, your options, they begin to narrow. Most people assume that fewer choices mean fewer costs. But in all actuality, when your choices shrink, all that really means is you have less flexibility in your plan and in your life. Later on, you have to pay for things like convenience, proximity, how close you are to those who can support you, assistance, and just stability in your life. And it's not because at that age you want some form of luxury. You just want things to be a little easier. And having things easier, that costs money. So the plan assumed you would trade complexity for savings, but reality often trades complexity for additional services and support. Most people don't realize that the number in their plan failed. They just feel this compression. They just feel more and more boxed into their lives. The scariest moment in retirement isn't market drops. The scariest is all of a sudden that you realize that your flexibility is gone. All of a sudden it hits you like a ton of bricks that you can't go earn more money, you can't move cheaply to another location, and you can't rewind decisions that have already been in place. So your monthly costs, that number still exists, but options to address and to support and take care of that number, they've really shrunk. This is where when you talk to people who are experiencing that part of their financial plan, what do they say? They say, oh, we're fine, but we have to be careful. That answer, careful, it's not convenience. It is containment. Again, it's being boxed in to the number that's surprising you. You see, the risk, it isn't living longer. The risk is that your plan didn't take into account all the assumptions. So this isn't a warning about age, right? It's a warning about those assumptions, how you planned, how you modeled it, and does that model match with the reality of your life as you age? So most financial plans, they don't fail because people live too long. They fail because time was treated as fixed, right? A fixed number of years. That the costs, you thought you could predict and model those expenses that would come up in your life, and the flexibility that you want, and quite frankly, we all have to have, the flexibility, it was an option. We didn't need to have it in our financial plan. 85 just happens to be the age when assumptions and reality collide. The most important retirement question that either you need to answer or your financial advisor needs to give you, it isn't a number. The question is this: at what age does this plan expect me to stop? And if you don't know the answer to that, then your plan is incomplete. Your plan's not broken, right? It's just not finished. And incomplete plans, they don't announce themselves. They reveal themselves very slowly. If this video did anything, it wasn't meant to scare you. It was meant to surface a question that most retirement plans never force you to ask. Not how much do I need, but how long was this plan built to last? It's not just longevity that stresses your retirement number, it's healthcare, it's inflation, it's timing, it's flexibility. In our next video, we'll look at another assumption that quietly breaks the same math even if you don't live past age 85. Because this one isn't about one age, it's about how many retirement numbers, how many assumptions were never designed to stretch that long. So if this video helped you look at your retirement plan a little differently, made you think, would you please subscribe? Would you pass this video on to somebody else who's getting ready to retire?